It's great to be invited to something, isn't it? Like whether it's an invite to hang with a friend, play Xbox after school, go shopping, sit with someone at lunch, or attend someone's graduation, or go to a party, all of us appreciate it when someone else makes the effort to invite us to something. Now, for all of the invitations in life that you've said yes to, let me ask you this. What made you say yes? Like, what made you decide that this was something you wanted to attend? Well, there are probably a bunch of potential reasons. Like maybe you said yes because you thought you would enjoy going. You thought that you might actually have a good time. Or maybe you said yes out of guilt. Like you didn't really want to go, but you felt so bad saying no that you said yes anyway. You assumed that you would have a terrible time and spend the entire time checking your phone and counting the minutes until you left. But despite all that, you still couldn't bring yourself to say no. Or maybe you said yes to an invitation because you were simply curious. Like whether it was a new restaurant, a new movie, or something that you've always wanted to try, you were just genuinely interested in what would happen. There are probably a dozen other reasons why you've said yes to an invitation, but I think the most common reason we say yes to an invitation is because of who asked us. Like there are people in your life, people at school, people on your team, who could invite you to the most amazing concert and you'd still be like, let me check my schedule, or sorry, I'd rather do homework. But there are also people you love hanging out with, or you'd love to start hanging out with, and if they asked you to watch paint dry, you'd be like, sounds great, what time? All of us know that when it comes to an invitation, the who can be far more important than the what. This idea is important because as Christians, we are encouraged to invite people all the time. We're told to invite people to church, to youth group, to camp, and to invite people into a relationship with Jesus. But when it comes to inviting other people to move closer to Jesus, not everyone feels excited about the idea. Don't get me wrong, some people love it, like they can't wait to talk about Jesus with anyone who will listen. They're completely bold when it comes to extending invitations for others to follow him. For others of us, for most of us, it makes us literally sick to think about it. Like most of us would rather do anything else. We're afraid that we won't know what to say, won't have all the answers, or won't know what to do if we end up in a conversation about faith. After all, we all probably know the person who talks about their faith and makes it awkward for everybody. We don't want to be that person. Plus, there's the issue of how to even begin the conversation. If you have any of those fears, it's totally valid and totally normal. I want you to know that. There are definitely some ways to extend an invitation that are better than others. And you may not know this, but Christians have literally tried everything to invite other people to get to know Jesus. We've bought billboards and put bumper stickers on our cars. We've made brochures called tracts that explain people's need for Jesus and handed them out to strangers. We've put invitations on shoes, bracelets, breath mints, fake $100 bills, and almost anything else you can imagine. And although our intentions were good, because we simply wanted other people to get closer to Jesus, it doesn't mean our methods were always effective. And yes, sometimes those methods can work, but sometimes they can also scare people away from faith. And that's why today I want to talk about a better way. A less awkward, less scary, more effective way to share your faith. And it goes like this. If we want people to say yes to an invitation to follow Jesus, then we need to be the type of people that others will say yes to. Like we said earlier, oftentimes the reason why we say yes to an invitation is because of who asked us. The person who asked you is the type of person you want to say yes to. And I want to be the type of person that others are more likely to say yes to when I invite them to chase after Jesus. And I want that for you too. To talk more about that, I want to look at an account from the Gospel of John. John was a guy who literally walked with Jesus and followed him around, and years later he decided to write down everything he remembered from that time. If you read the Gospels, not just John's, but the others as well, you'll see a phrase that comes up over and over again. When people try to describe how great Jesus was, like how amazing his teachings were or how incredible his actions were, they found themselves struggling to explain it well. So they ended up simply saying this: come and see, meaning I can't tell you everything you need to know, and I don't have answers to all of your questions. You're just gonna have to come check him out for yourself. The people who loved Jesus were constantly extending invitations to others because of what they had experienced. And we're gonna look at a time John remembers that Jesus had been inviting specific people to follow him, and be his disciples. And one of those people was Philip. Jesus invited Philip to follow him. And once Philip experienced Jesus, he started inviting others to follow Jesus as well. And in this passage we're about to look at, we see exactly how Philip chose to invite his friend Nathanael to follow Jesus. Check it out. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. "Come and see," said Philip. In other words, Philip wasn't able to explain everything he had seen or heard. So instead, he simply invited Nathanael to see for himself, because Philip knew something. When it comes to Jesus, experiencing is more effective than explaining. And being in his presence that was simply unexplainable. Others just had to come and see it for themselves. So you know what Nathanael does? He says yes. Philip extends an invitation, and without knowing much about Jesus at all, Nathanael decides to follow along. Why? Why did Nathanael decide to go and see Jesus when all he knew about Jesus is what Philip told him? I think a lot of it had to do with the kind of person Philip was. Nathanael